Hello and welcome to another episode. In this episode, we're going to see some really helpful methods that you can use in every project that you have. Let's begin, of course, by creating a helper service right here inside the app folder, in which we will generate all these methods. So let's create first of all a services folder. Now, of course, this is a brand new Ionic-Angular project that just created, so it has nothing in it. Let's continue. So services folder, and right here let's generate a service. So a service inside the services folder, and let's name it as helper, like this. So let's wait for a minute. So the service has created right here inside the services folder, and it is right here. So the first couple of methods that we're going to see are helper methods that we're going to use to check the contents of any type of variable, object, string, or anything that you can use inside the project, or of course in the HTML file, or before building let's say an object for an API. So let's see these methods. First off, let's see the method that we're going to call as check undefined null. Check undefined null right here. Of course, this method is going to take a parameter, so an input given like this. Let's name it input given. It's going to be of type any. Now, of course, let's add a comment for this. So this method checks if the input parameter like this is undefined or null, like this. So let's proceed. So we need to do two checks, of course. So we're going to return the opposite of this check right here. So if input given like this is either undefined or null, like this. Input given is either equal to null, like this. So we're gonna return the opposite of this. Of course, let's type also the return type for the documentation in order to be correct, like this. So this is the first method that we're going to use in order to check the contents of any variable. And now let's continue to a method that we're going to use for strings only contents. So let's name it check necessary cases, like this. Of course, again, we're going to have an input given of type any, again, like this, any, and of course the return type is going to be again boolean, like this. Let's place a comment right here. So this method checks if the input given is null, undefined, or empty, like this. So again, let's see the three controls and checks that we're going to place. So return again the opposite of input given is either, let's place it right here. So input given is either undefined or is null, or here we're going to say input given is equal to the empty string, like this. This completes the two methods that we're going to use and you can use in any project in order to check the contents of any variable inside the project. Now we're going to continue by generating two methods that are related to console. So console, as you may know, it is really helpful in order to debug your project, APIs, and the frontend project in general. So let's see two methods that we're going to use to console any data that it is related to the project. Now these methods, the first method is going to be used for general console log of any data, and the second method is going to use it specifically for APIs. So let's see the first method that we're going to call as console handler right here. But first of all, before generating and creating the method, let's define a variable that is going to be helpful, as you will see later on. So right here, it's going to call trace log as 1, a string 1, like this. Trace log is equal to 1, And let's see how we can going to use these trace log right here. So console handler. So let's see what type of parameters we're going to provide. So a data parameter of type any, of course, and the data2 parameter that's gonna be optional with this typing, so it's gonna be of type any. Of course, we're not going to return anything in this method. So of course, let's place a comment right here. So this method is a console log handler. So let's continue. Of course, now we're going to check if the trace log variable that we defined previously is equal to 1 or 0 in order to console log or not. Of course, you can set this method also in the environment ts file inside the environments folder. Okay, let's check this variable. So if this trace log is, let's say, is different than 0, like this, at this case we're going to console. If this is 0, if this trace log is 0, then we do not console anything. So as you can see, this method is really useful in order to handle the console log, so to allow it or not inside an entire project. And after defining this method, we only console by using this method and do not write console.log inside our project. Let's see the continuation. So in this case, we do console log the data variable, and right now we check if we have the data2 variable. So if, and right here we also use the method that we already defined. So if this dot check undefined null with the data2 as a parameter, like this, so also console log the data2, like this. This is the complete console handler method that we're going to use, and you can use, of course, in any of your projects in order to handle the console log functionality. At this moment, this method is complete, and we can move on with the API general console method. As we already discussed, this method is going to be used to console log all the necessary data for the APIs. So let's see this method. So we're going to name it as API general console. So this method now is going to take up to 3 parameters. So the headers is going to be the first parameter, the URL that the API is calling, so it's going to be of type string, of course, an optional post body if the API is of type post or patch or anything like this, has a body. So this is going to be optional, as we already said, so a type any, like this. Of course, let's place a useful comment like this. So this method is used only in the APIs in order to console the following, as we already seen, the following information. Let's proceed and define this method. Of course, we need to check if the console is allowed. We're gonna have this control right here. So if this .trace log is different again than 0, and in this case, we console log all the necessary information. Of course, we can start by console log the headers, like this. So let's place it like this, headers of the API, and we can continue and console log the URL, of course, like this. So URL is going to be, of course, the URL param that we have provided, like this. And lastly, we need to check if a post body was provided. We need to check it. So again, we're going to use this check undefined null method like this. So this dot check undefined null with the post body like this. And if we have the body, so we need to console it. So console log like this, the post API body like this. So post body. And at this moment, we have successfully completed both the console methods, a general method for any console, which is a console handler, and an API specific console method that you can use in your projects.